Whew, Ellen, I just got back. Small business safari. We're starting again.
You sound like you were working out.
Oh man, no, I had a lot of work. I just came out of my HR department, and they said once again, Chris, you can't say get back to work, get your head down, quit whining, suck it up, Buttercup. You got to get to work. Uh-oh.
That's bad.
I guess so. I don't know. That's why we have some help we have to do, and so I'm so glad I'm back in here. We have Wendy Sellers, the HR lady, is on the house and ready to talk to us. Hi, what's going on, Wendy?
Oh, just living the dream down here in insane, crazy Florida.
That's right. Florida is insane and crazy.
Well, did the hurricane hit you?
Now I live in St. Pete, which is a little south of Tampa, and some people got a little bit, especially if you were by the water. A lot of people got flooded, but I personally did not this time. So I'm just hoping hurricanes go away this season.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, let's call that season over, right? Let's go on. Moving on. Let's swipe right.
I don't know. I think you need to be talking to HR about that.
Going back into HR, which is why we're in this session, is because HR is, let's face it, Wendy, it's just not sexy.
No,
it's not a fun
absolutely
topic.
not.
Nobody wants to talk about.
Nope. Nobody wants to go to HR. Nobody wants to talk to HR. And honestly, in the past, we are changing, but HR usually just sucks. They're there for the company. They're not there for the employee. And
that's
it's a
the
lot
title of this podcast.
Yeah,
HR like, usually just sucks.
HR usually just sucks. It's the truth. And to be fair, though, to HR, especially now since the pandemic, there has definitely been a lot of changes. So people that only wanted to do compliance and never wanted to deal with employee relations, many of those have left HR. And I say, bye, good riddance. Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
I'm really glad to hear that because Chris is a lot older than us. And, back in his day, HR used to be, part of onboarding, and recruiting was underneath that. And it was, all about employee development, morale, the whole 9 yards. And then it just seemed like it turned into, your internal Politburo officer of compliance. And I mean, it was scary. HR is scary.
It is. And most of our businesses in the United States are small businesses. So if they even have an HR department or an HR person, that's one thing. And so that's what I really, really love to do is I love to teach the average person how to have the HR skills and at a minimum keep the company out of court, and then stop employee turnover by stopping the managers from being jerks, and then letting the managers know, hey, employees want to talk to you, not HR, so don't send them to HR. Not to dog all my HR folks, because there are many people now that are like, all right, I know what HR really is supposed to be. Unfortunately, there's just so much compliance that bogs HR down. So a true HR person who's like, yes, I'm in this for the employee. I want to increase revenue. I want to increase retention and improve recruiting, yada, yada, yada. That person is usually tied up with all this red tape and compliance that they can't actually do the job that everybody wishes they would do.
Right.
So, it's not cheap to hire a good HR person anymore. And so many companies don't necessarily realize that. And they go to hire somebody like, oh, $40,000. I'm like, 2 years experience, $75,000. Any
that
questions?
Is a position you get what you pay for in HR, don't you?
Yeah, you really do.
We have done, we jumped right into it and started talking about HR and where it all comes from. And we're going to come back to how Wendy started her business. But I do want to talk about that. I've always felt like HR was like insurance. When I was in corporate America, it was insurance. It was insurance.
Yeah. And payroll.
And payroll. That's right. So you had to have it because just in case a guy hypothetically said he was going to come and shoot everybody, and one of the other ladies overheard it, and they came to me when I was at SunTrust, and I knew this guy, and he was just an older dude, and he was a computer programmer, and he said something he shouldn't have, and then bang, because he said that, flag on the field, boom, had to go. So I immediately brought my HR partner in, who was one of the best ever, Sally Haskell, who won't listen to this because she's retired. But she came in and said, "No, Chris, you're gonna have to put him on 2-week administrative leave." And I told him that, and he obviously got angry. And I'm like, Ron, you gotta slow down, bud. I mean, you gotta be sad about this, right? Because you can't say that in the workplace when 50% of the people in the cubes are women. Son, you can't sit there and come in there. He goes, "Oh, I guess you're right, but I didn't mean it." I'm like, of course you didn't mean it. So that's
Are
why.
you saying that women are more easily threatened by gun violence in the workplace?
Well, by a man. Yeah, I think so. Did I just violate something, Wendy?
I think you did.
Well, I'm glad that he
Here we go.
questioned you on that, because I was thinking that too over here. I was thinking, well, hey, a gun's a gun, the violence is going to scare everybody. And, there's a lot of mental illness in the world. And unfortunately, it's not just about teaching people what they can and can't say. It's also about assessing, are these people mentally stable? And so HR is payroll, which, by the way, I can barely add. So I was never payroll, but we're insurance, we're workers' comp, we're safety, we're policies, we're procedures, we're recruiting, we're we're the behavior police. And now we're also, among a million of other things, we're also supposed to be mental health counselors. And it's like, no wonder why the good people that really can do all this stuff are getting paid a lot more, and they deserve every minute of it. And many others are saying, peace out, I'm retiring early, or I'm just going to change my career because my company is crazy. They expect way too much for me, and there's no amount of money in the world worth it. And so that's, one of the reasons I became a consultant, was so I can help more companies instead of just one company who was going to bleed me dry.
All right, so let's take a step back, because this is about people who are thinking about trying to start their own business or scale a business. And what we need to know is the Wendy Sellers story. And so the best part I heard was her first job was at an adult daycare. How old were you when you went to work there?
I was in college. So I went to college when I was 17. So I would say probably 17 or 18.
Okay, we just both did a double take. All right, super genius. Now, listen, you can't use big words with us, because we didn't get to college for a little while. So we definitely didn't do it at 17. But you were working adult.
And once I
daycare.
got there, it took me a while to get out.
And those are the best 7 years of my life.
No, yeah. So I went to college originally because I have 3 degrees, because I'm not smart enough to realize, hey, you should have just got one and figured out it was HR. But I digress, and I'll be paying that off till I die. So don't go so happy of like, oh yeah, she's smart, she went to school early. She'll be on Social Security before she actually pays that stuff off. But I went to school to get a degree in healthcare administration, thinking, oh, I want to change the world through healthcare administration. And I quickly realized, after I got my first degree in it, while I was working at this adult daycare, and then doing an internship at a hospital too, that I was like, no way, this is way too slow for me. I cannot sit here with all this compliance and, wait to be told what to do. But I continued getting a master's in it anyways. And then at that adult daycare is when I really said, I was like, no, this isn't for me. Funny thing is, I always joke, and my friends joke too, that I'm like, I don't really like people that much. How the heck did I end up in HR?
Wendy, I think your shirt should say, I heart people. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I heart people. She can tell she cares right here. Big heart for me.
The funny thing is, I think a lot of HR people end up
HR.
going through this, that we end up joking at conference and stuff, that like, we're hate people because our cup floats over, and you have to be happy all the time.
HR hates people. That could be a title too.
Many people who get into HR thinking they're doing it because they love people end up going, oh my God, I can't do this. I'm like, these people are driving me crazy. So it does take a special skill. But I like fixing things, and I like putting chaos in organizing it. And so that's how I kind of ended up in HR, saying, okay, there's things that need to be done here in this company. And sure, I'm going to be the one to do it. I just got to teach myself real quick. And then I went back and got another degree in HR.
So,
wow.
So the book title, Suck It Up, Buttercup, does that kind of come from all the whiny people that you've had to work with in HR?
You know what? It comes from the fact, I used to always say that too. I used to say, suck it up, Buttercup. And I thought, okay, I want people to read this book, and I want them to think they're going to read it because they're attacking others and making fun of others. And I wanted them to read the book and say, crap, I'm part of the problem. And that's what the Suck It Up, Buttercup is. It's suck it up, Buttercup. You might be part of the problem.
Oh,
love that book title. And that's why, because I've used that word too many times. Or embrace the suck. Now get under that crawl space, get that board put in, and let's get out of here.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
I'm in construction. So yeah, I mean,
what word was that? It wasn't Buttercup.
I didn't say that one. No, actually, I'm trying to keep that one clean. And I'll tell you, it did end with "Get your fat ass in there." But it was me and Goody, the my sales manager.
Wendy, is that bad?
Is that bad?
Probably.
Another violation?
Well, no, not necessarily. Harassment and discrimination is when it's unwanted. So,
Was that right?
person.
So
yeah,
when can Chris?
So it was
harass?
consensual. So this is one of those things I could say. It was consensual that I called him a fat.
Yeah,
No,
I probably want that in writing that it was consensual.
Oh
But
my God.
where people screw up, it says that, oh yeah, me and him were screwing around and we it was consensual, but they don't know about the other employees that walked by and heard it. And that's the part that's not consensual and potentially discriminatory, harassing, and just downright shitty behavior.
Yeah, that's true. I had downright shitty behavior. Thank you, Wendy.
You're welcome.
But we're also in a
She
society
doesn't even
where-
really know me. I
But
mean,
pe-
I just got to see her speak at a conference. She didn't even get to meet me, and she already figured out who I am.
But it's so
Yeah, I've
frustrating
worked in
'cause,
construction. I know the type.
I mean, don't you think people are just kind of too sensitive today? I mean, I know
Yeah, let's talk about that.
there's a lot of crossing the line that shouldn't have been crossed, but at the same time, there's just people who just are sensitive about everything. And I mean, that's when I think it's sucking up Buttercup. It's like,
I
good
don't know
Lord.
if people are too sensitive, but we do have this thing called social media and fake news all over the internet, and the people thinking it's real, and it gets people riled up. You know what I mean? It really does. It gets people riled up, where before the average person didn't have an outlet they had a bad day at work. They couldn't go home and post it on Instagram and then get all these crazy people to support them. Where now you have this, you post something on, any of the social medias, and people you don't even know are commenting where they're either taking you down or they're supporting your own craziness. And I think that's where it's all coming from. So I just tell people when they are in the slumps, like, just stay off of social media, go watch like a nature video or something.
So I found the Hallmark channel, and I'm really enjoying that right now to help me decompress. Thank you, Alan.
Your therapist wasn't available?
No,
Oh,
yeah,
God.
she was on vacation.
So she's got your phone number blocked.
That too. And funny enough, the door's always locked every time I go there
Yeah.
lately. I don't know what's happening, but
I swear I see a
sign.
light back there.
might be a few things going on. I'm not sure. But Wendy, you hit on something that's I think is interesting, and that is actually at my company, the Trusted Toolbox, right? It's just a construction company, but we have a social media policy that we have to tell everybody about, just because of what you just mentioned. And my term is always soundbite management. Everybody works right in little sound bites with our attention deficit disorder, and I'm the best at it. I'm the hummingbird at it. I'm all over every social media there possibly is as a 50-something-year-old. That's how I said it like that.
Yeah, way to round down.
Thank you. So
what is the social media policy?
So, well, it's about posting and what you can and can't post. And if you are a member, you're an employee of the Trusted Toolbox, you have to be sensitive to what you're posting out there. And we talk about you can't post from customers' houses without approval. You can't post inappropriate stuff and tag the Trusted Toolbox. And we don't put this in writing, but we highly recommend that you don't do dumb shit on social media in your own personal freaking account.
Yeah, no, that's a good piece of advice. It is contentious a piece of advice, because people think, oh, I have the right to say whatever I want to anybody in the world, especially as an American. And that's not actually the truth. Our freedom of speech is not protected in the workplace. Now, there's a little bit of protection if you're under a federal workplace, but we won't talk about that here. But the employer can say what you can and cannot, say in the workplace, including social media. And even if it's not at work, but you're a highly representative, or you have the work shirt on with a logo and you're saying it on your personal social media, it could 100% affect your job. And there have been lawsuits about it where the employees won and where the employees lost. So, my piece of advice, if you were my friend, is like, shut your mouth.
Yeah. Perfect. I actually have a great little chicken song. If you guys want to go out there and Google something, Google chicken singing "Shut the F Up" song. And I play that every once in a while. At work during a sales meeting, especially one of them starts whining about something. I just say, hey, here, let's listen to this little video. Look at this one. Huh? There you go. All right, let's keep going. Again, I'm in the HR lady's office, so I'm No,
Are you
I'm dead.
confessing?
I'm dead.
He sounds like he's confessing.
I'm out. Yeah, it's good.
I'm going to put
Wendy-
you on a performance improvement plan.
I'm on a PIP.
But yours is a BIP. It's a behavior improvement plan.
Actually, it's a BABIP. It's a big ass behavior improvement plan.
You were put on a couple of those in corporate America, weren't you?
You know what? I'm proud to say I'd love to joke that I did, but no, I never was. I never.
You were called into HR a couple times.
I have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But that was about behavior, like me fitting in the culture. I actually had to go to the. Honestly, twice I had to go to our industrial shrink to make sure I was a good fit for a company, for the new position, and two, to understand that perhaps my behavior at a Southern Genteel bank was a little different than what most people were used to.
You were a bull in a china shop.
I not only was I a bull in the china shop, I took the door off, the windows off, I ripped all the china off, and they're like, "You can't do it like that, Chris." Now, good news is I never swore and I never disrespected anybody, but I did. But when people were like, "Oh, I'm not really sure that's my job," I'm like, "Well, I think that's your job." Yeah, no, that's your job, right? Because our job is to be a better bank, right? And you're not doing your job. Boom, in HR. Damn it.
For that?
It's funny that you mentioned that, though, because in my book, Suck It Up, Buttercup, Be a Leader, People Will Follow, I actually have in there how I was a bull in the china shop.
Really?
It's literally bolded in there on one of the pages. And oh yeah, I was rough around the edges. I was very much like you. No offense. Dun, dun.
I love
but
the
I was-
tagline, be a leader, people will follow.
Right.
I know it.
Be a leader people will willingly follow, not that they have to or pretend to
Right.
follow, you know.
That's
and-
my
and-
definition of leadership is when you
It
turn
really
around,
is.
there's actually people following.
Right. You know, they could be following you over a cliff, but they're still
Sure.
following you.
And it's still leading. Just not
Yeah.
necessarily in a constructive direction.
All right,
But, you know,
Wendy,
I was definitely a bull in the China shop, and I would say things like "suck it up" and things like that, and it backfired. I learned my lesson, but sometimes you just have to go through some of these, you know, difficult situations in order to say, "Whoo, I didn't like the way that felt. I'm not going to do that again." And so I also feel like we coddle our young employees and our you know, young people in general. And I would say if you're 40 or under, because we want to stop them from making mistakes, and we need them to make the mistakes.
Because they're so
If they
dumb,
make the
right? Is
mistakes,
that what you're saying?
no, it's because the parents and the
going to
managers
HR.
say, "Go, I want to not have you make this mistake. So I see you about to make it, so I'm going to stop you so you don't make it." And it's like, no, let them make it and let them go through how painful that is, so they say, "Oh, I don't ever want to do that again."
that's a great line. We talk about this in sales quite a bit in my company, is that when you go on a sales call and you're the manager or you're the coach, and there's two of us, me and the sales guy, I had to tell my guy, I'm like, just let them fail. You have to
Yep.
let them fail. I said, I know we're going to lose a sale. And I said, and it hurts me more than it hurts anybody else in this company. I said, but if you don't let him fail, he won't know what it's like to win the next time. You're so right. We're doing that now, you know, and I don't want to get too far into the kids thing because mine are older and I've clearly not raised them correctly, even though my daughter is a Braves fan and we watch that. But, you know, back when we were kids, you'd go out, and if you were home, you know, you would go out, run around, come back, and you'd have dinner. Now you're like, "Hey, can I go to this person's house?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know their parents. You're not allowed to go there." Well, why not? Well, it's crazy out there now. We need to have play dates. That was when my kids, now they're 25 and 23, but anyway, I bring it down. Let's bring it back up. Wendy, when you left corporate America or whatever corporate you left, did you have employee? I mean, did you have customers in hand? Did you have a plan that you were going to do?
No, not really. Not at all. I just I worked for a really great company for most of my career in the architectural engineering industry. So, you know, I got very familiar with construction, and I loved the professional employees. I loved the you know, the on the ground employees. I loved everything about that company. It kept growing, and you know, after one of the US recessions, we got acquired by another firm, and the culture changed. And so that's when I said, I'm going to tap out, and I'm going to go to another company where I can affect change. And it was one of the worst companies I ever worked for in my entire life. The culture was awful. People were on eggshells all the time. HR was in and out. There was so much turnover in HR. They were beautiful. They were pretty buildings. Everything looked right, but it was awful. And I was like, I'm not even going to make it through a year here, but I'm going to make them fire me, because there is no way I'm going to go ahead and give them the gratitude of not giving me some kind of severance and unemployment. And at that point in time, I was probably only a couple months in, and I was like, I'm out. I'll do my job, but I'm going to start setting up my a business. And I just started networking, ended up meeting a consultant who had a big client who needed help. And so one of my first clients, honestly, I ended up being full-time HR. But I was able to start figuring out how to run a business, gave myself an X amount of time with that first client, and then just got out and started beating the streets and speaking for free and helping people, and referrals started coming in.
So who's your target?
It's all about relationships.
Yeah, who's your target client?
Honestly, anybody with breathing human beings that
You really narrowed it down.
Yeah, I really narrowed it down.
You're a niche HR person.
Yeah, I really am not a niche at all. I would say, so my business has changed. I've been in business a little over 10 years now. And when I started, I helped the small businesses, mainly just small businesses that didn't have HR departments, and I was their HR consultant on call almost 24/7. It was fun, but it was also exhausting. And so in the past couple of years, really the pandemic has propelled me to this direction, where I'm mainly doing management training in any type of industry, whether they have HR or not. I go in and do management training from new managers to seasoned executives. So we can talk about increasing retention and stopping the turnover. That's the biggest thing that has been happening. And I know this is going to be awful to say, but the pandemic helped my cause and my vision, because in the past, before the pandemic, companies weren't as worried about attracting and retaining employees. And now they are. And so they're like, okay, how can we stop the bleeding here? I'm like, how about you hire or train your managers to be managers? And now they're going, okay, well, listen, I know you've been saying this forever, but we'll finally listen now. So that's, I still do HR consulting, but I get to pick and choose who I work with. But I mainly do training and conference speaking all over the country.
So quick question, since a lot of our listeners are thinking about starting a business or they're new in business, and you need that HR support, you need that HR help from employee one, but you can't afford it. So give some advice to somebody who's, at what point can you justify in-house, the consulting? What do you do with employee 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
Yeah, so it's the old rule of thumb was like, if you had 50 or more employees, you would you'd hire somebody for HR. I've seen companies at 17 employees hire somebody. I've seen companies at 100 employees that they just have a really good leadership team that took on the HR duties, that they didn't have a full-time HR person. But you don't need an HR person to train your managers. You can hire consultants. You can go online to all these training companies. You can hire myself. And so you don't need an HR person, but what you do, I recommend having an HR person that's competent, especially to make sure that all the compliance issues are taken care of, and making sure that we're actually following the laws we're supposed to be following. But you could train your managers on how to talk to employees, how to hire without breaking the law, how to hire without offending anybody, how to hire without getting desperate and just throwing somebody in the role because you're breathing, come on in. That's going to end up in a nightmare in 3 months.
Did that hurt,
more like
Chris?
3 days.
I told you, she's never met me. I'm just saying.
You're hired.
You're hired. I'm not
You're
saying I've done
breathing,
that.
you're hired.
Okay,
Don't do
perfect.
that. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Don't do what I'm about to tell you I did. And that is, hired the guy at 8 a.m., had him at a job site at 10 a.m.
I mean, if he had all the skills, that's fine. That's great. But the interview better lasted more than 2 minutes.
Right. I know it's got to take longer. And yeah, no, we have a pretty exhaustive interview process for our guys in the beginning. But when I say exhaustive, especially in construction, we're at 45 minutes because those guys won't sit there much longer than that anyway.
Well,
but we got to have the
and
background check in hand before we go out as well.
yeah, and as long as, I mean, an interview can last 10 minutes or it can last 4 hours. I just tell everybody, just get prepared for it in advance and start training your admin staff to help out, at least with the initial resume selection, interviews. You can standardize questions that you ask of all candidates, including about like visas, or are you legal to work in the United States? When can you start? What's the pay? Anybody can ask that, but you do have to teach that admin team and your managers what they cannot ask, so you don't get yourself in trouble.
All right, let's hit them. Give us some of the questions you can't ask just off the top of your head, because a lot of these guys, you're probably out there 1-man, 2-man shop, 3-man, 3-person shop, 4 ladies. What are questions you can't ask?
So you can't ask things like, where were you born? Oh, that's a cool accent. Where were you born? Even though you didn't mean that, like in the way of a discrimination, they don't know that, and they can now accuse you of discrimination. How old are you? Oh, what year did you go to high school? You can't be asking things like that. Hey, do you have any disabilities? You shouldn't be asking things like that. Now, they could put on their application, or they could be telling you, hey, I do need an accommodation. You still go through the interview and you deal with that later. Things about their gender, their gender orientation, marriage status. Oh my goodness, so many people ask about marriage status.
Right.
Who takes care of your kids? That's none of your business. Here's the job description. Can you do it? Thanks. See you tomorrow.
Yeah, that one, that's the one I was looking for, because it seems innocent, but I had to train my operations manager to not ask that question. I'm like, you can't ask if they're married or not. And usually we're hiring carpenters, drywall guys, handymen in my business. So it seems like an innocent question where you're just trying to make a connection. And I told him, I'm like, dude, you can't ask that question.
Yeah. Now, the other thing is, then I have one other one, but for our listeners that are hearing this, your candidates might bring it up, and you just don't continue the conversation. Just be like, thanks, that's not part of our interview process. And you just keep moving along, because they're human and they want to get to know you too. And please, 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 I know everybody's listening from all over the country and possibly further, but you should not be asking about arrest. It's convictions that matter, not arrest. So have you ever been arrested? Illegal question, no matter where you're at in the United States. And now your application might be able to say, have you been convicted of a crime? And if so, when? Now, it does depend on which state you live in now, because a lot of states that is now illegal to ask about convictions until after you have made a conditional job offer.
All right, let me ask this question. Can I ask this question? So I asked questions. Anyway, if I Googled you, what would come up? Can I ask that question?
Yeah, I guess you could ask that, but my question to you is, why are you asking that?
Because mugshots.com is out there. and that's how we found out a lot of stuff about people, because we always Google their name.
I probably wouldn't ask that in an interview for that case, because you are trying to find the answer to a question that you're not supposed to be asking. So remember, somebody could have a mugshot and have been wrongly arrested. So now you're holding them accountable because of a racist police officer, you got to think about the world that we're in that, the three of us that are on here are white and we have privilege. And so you have to make sure that, if you like it or not, we do. And so you need to make sure that you're training your managers to understand, well, they had a mugshot, so that means that they're a bad person. No. You might think about that in your skin color, but not in somebody else's, or depending on where they're from, their accent, their age, their education. So please do not ever, 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 ever ask about arrests. Some of you may want be able to legally ask about convictions, but please check your state laws, because a lot more states have laws that you cannot ask about convictions until you've made a job offer, a conditional job offer. Sorry.
Right. That's when we go for the background check, was the conditional job offer.
That
Yeah.
just seems like such a waste of time.
What we just talked about?
No. I mean, if you can't ask about a conviction, I understand about the arrest. That makes perfect sense. But if you can't ask about a conviction.
But you know what you can do instead, and this is what I tell people, because they're still like, no, we have these policies, and we, we'll pull the job offer because whatever, we're on a government contract and we need this stuff. So I just put it in the job ad. Like, FYI, we do conduct background checks, and this is our policy, and we are strict about it. So
there's the gold nugget. If you've never put an ad out, you've got to put that in there. Yeah, you must be willing to submit to a background check, and that will.
And this is our policy. Not just about submitting to a background check, but this is our policy. Or you can refer them maybe to it. Maybe you create a careers page for your company, and then you explain your policy on your careers page, and you refer to that in the job ad. Because I know many organizations that say, we conduct background checks, but please, we are willing to hire people who are reformed. So please be honest with it with us in your interview.
Oh, that's a good one. I'm thinking for a minute. Not reformed, because there's a couple no-nos. I mean, for us, we have hired guys, and but it was 20 years ago, and it was marijuana, and I'm like, okay, we'll let that go. Other stuff, domestic violence is 100% no, especially in my world, because we go into people's houses all the time.
You think that would be a tough one?
Yeah, that's impossible. Right. I mean, that's just. I'm sorry, man. You're gonna have to go find something else.
Yep. Just
but
be
not
consistent.
With this company.
My advice is just be consistent. Don't favor one person over another, because you'll get yourself in hot water in the discrimination and bias territory.
So I have a question on the flip side of this thing. So the common wisdom, and I even heard Mark Cuban say this the other day, is to hire slow and fire quick. And we joke about it here because Chris hires pretty quick. It doesn't seem like you can fire quick without getting yourself in trouble.
So I actually use that piece of advice to hire slow, fire fast, and then I go kidding within reason. Hiring slow means taking your time, getting your act together, getting the job description, creating all the interview questions. So, admin people or somebody with less experience could jump in and help. And you're asking all the candidates pretty much the same thing, at least to start off with, until conversations get going. What they mean, at least what I mean when I say fire fast, is, listen, if you're doing a true onboarding plan, you hired somebody and say, okay, in your first 30 days, these are the things we're going to train you on. Here's the feedback we're going to give you, blah, blah, blah. If you actually do the onboarding process, you would know by day 15 or 30 or 65 or 90 that, this person's not going to work out. And so a little quick nugget here for you is that 90-day window. The reason that 90 days is selected is, in most states in the United States, if you are let go from your job before 90 days, you can't collect unemployment. That's where that whole 90-day comes from. It's ridiculous. I say no, unless you're in a contract, which most of us are not, you are always on probation. So stop using the word probation too. It's the most negative word there is. Welcome to the team. We just spent $5,000 to get you, and now you're on probation. And we're going to give you no feedback, and we're not going to train you, and we're going to be mad at you at day 89.
89 it is. No. Yeah. I'm sorry. Here's your 89-day
That's
review.
what you got out of that, Chris?
Yes, I set them up for an 89-day review and bring both howitzers in and go, hey, here's your 89-day review. Goodbye. Good luck. Get out of here. No. Our onboarding process now is very stout, meaning that we know, and I just had this happen. We just hired another guy, and within 6 days, done. And it was because he figured out that our culture was strong. This wasn't a place he would be able to perform and hit his personal goals, and opted out. And you go, oh, wow, well, it must have been your culture. And no, it was exactly our culture, that we expect people to do what they say they can do and have accountability.
So he washed himself out.
He washed himself out. And that's what's happening right now with the way we're doing it. Yeah, it's been very powerful, because we were so focused on it in the beginning and how we did it. So, not saying kudos to me, but it's kind of I was trying to get Wendy to know that, hey, look, he's not so bad. All right, but maybe he is that bad.
I'm going to
All right.
hold that judgment for a little bit longer.
Oh, man. We're still in session. Oh,
Smart girl.
hey,
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
no hand signals here. I mean, it goes on YouTube, buddy. All right. So, Wendy, you got a podcast as well. Tell us a little bit more about the podcast you do, and who would want to listen to that and check it out.
Sure. So I have a couple podcasts. I do a podcast for a training company, Aurora Training Advantage. That's how I started in the podcast world. I'm their host. And then I just started my own at the same time. We were kind of duplicating efforts. And so I have a podcast, the HR Lady podcast. It's on many sites. I have recently changed my format a little bit. So I'm doing more about just like once a week, 15, 20 minutes. Sometimes they're a little bit longer. Some have interviews, some don't. I have a co-host, but we're very real and honest. And we want to help anybody who's a business owner, who's a leader, who's a management, who wants to be in HR, or has the HR hat, just talk about real things and some advice. And so I also just started a new mini series within that HR podcast called Fuck Around and Find Out.
So
what we talk
FAFO,
about,
baby.
yeah,
I'm
FAFO. That's exactly what
I'm getting shirts made. You didn't
yeah,
have
that
it,
would be
did you?
nice. But what we talk about on there is, real case scenarios of employers who didn't care and they got sued for it. And, we're also talking about some other real life issues too that business people go through every single day. And so definitely tune in. It's very light. It's not always for little ears, but I do warn people when there is a cursing in there.
All right. So I went to check that podcast out, and here's literally how it starts. This podcast is going to be full of lots of bad words. Or something. But it starts just like that. I'm like, did I just get on a true crimes podcast or something?
Yep. That's my co-host JC. He's an amazing MC, and I said, hey, I need to do a warning on this. So he recorded and then he edited his voice. I'm like, this scared me when I heard it.
It's like Darth Vader.
I'm telling you, I hopefully I got close, but it's that scary. But no, check those podcasts out, everybody. It's a good podcast. I've listened to a couple. I'm sure, like a lot of us, but I mean, of course, you listen to ours all the time, every time.
All the time.
But I'm sure what you do is probably a lot more like what I do, guys. You go in, you go out, you pick off some topics, you come back to them. These guys are fun. They're giving me some good information. Wendy's definitely giving me a lot of good information. I've actually brought some of this stuff into my house, into my company before. So that's why I asked her to come onto our podcast and share some of her great gold nuggets. But Wendy, we're coming to the end of this amazing session of talking about all the things Chris is doing wrong in his business. I mean, all the things that other people should be doing better. How else can we find the HR lady out there?
Sure. The best way to find me is my website, thehrlady.com. And then I'm a LinkedIn junkie too. So find me on LinkedIn, Wendy Sellers, the HR lady. And also I have a couple books, as we've talked about, Suck It Up, Buttercup, Be a Leader, People Will Follow. You can get it on my website as a PDF or on Amazon. And then I have another book about how to deal with crappy leaders and jerks at work. And that is also on Amazon or on my website, thehrlady.com.
Definitely compelling titles, right? Like Suck It Up,
You know
Buttercup.
exactly what you're going to get with those books.
Yes, there is zero sugarcoating here.
Right.
But, my purpose in life is to just help with employee retention on the employee side and the business side. So I don't work with companies that are jerks. If you want to stop being a jerk and you want to actually listen to me, I will help you. But if you're going to use every excuse under the moon to not change your practices, go find somebody else to take your money, because I won't do it.
All right. I love that stuff. This has all been great. All right. Wendy, we can't let you go without asking our famous 4 questions. Number 1, what is a book you would recommend to our audience?
Oh boy, it's right over here. It is from Mark Manson. Everything is fucked.
Seems to be a theme here.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You want to party with I'm going to party with you, cowboy. All right. All right, Mark Manson, everybody.
It's actually not what you think, but check it out, look it up.
What's it about? What's
It's
it about?
really about the fact that, maybe we stress over the little things a little too much. And so maybe we just need to let some things go. And that's what I have personally done. I made some lot of changes in my life the past couple of years, and trying to get stress off my plate and focus on people that want to be helped and helping them, and not the other people that don't want to be helped.
Nice.
Love it.
Great. All right. Second one, what is the favorite feature of your house? Because I'm in construction. You were in construction helping people out. You love that stuff. So what's a great feature, your favorite feature of your house?
The favorite feature of my house is that it's on wheels, because I live in my RV.
She had a little twinkle in her eye when she was answering. So you just travel around the country permanently?
I did. So I currently am stationary since I moved here to St. Pete, because there's literally no reason to go anywhere else. But in the summer of 2021, I did a cross-country road trip in my previous RV, my motorhome, for 69 days by myself from Florida to California and back. And I have a website on that of all the crap that happened. And there was a lot. My website there is wendysellers.godaddysites.com. It's a free site, but it gives you a little bit of the clean version of what happened on my trip. And you name it, from air conditions blowing out in the middle of the Midwest in July, to a mouse living with me, to you wouldn't even believe the things that have happened.
So I thought I would do. I thought I wanted to do a cross country RV trip to Yellowstone, and I think I'm gonna have to go watch Wendy's website, and it'll probably talk me right the hell out of that one. And I'll say,
Yeah, it
I'll
is.
take the
It
jet,
sounds
we'll
like
go
a
to the
real,
Ritz.
Not with the family, Chris.
Yeah, that's what happened.
it sounds like a really great idea. And I had an amazing time. It's actually how I ended up here in St. Pete. I met somebody at, I was staying at wineries and breweries for the good part of it. And I was at a winery at one of my last stops in Kansas, down this dirt road. I would have never found this winery ever. And I pulled in, and these other people pulled in front of me. We jumped out and started drinking. And they said, "You want to move to St. Pete and live in our backyard?" I said, "Yes, I do. I'm on my way."
Oh my God. Wendy, she violated some HR policy there, I'm sure, somewhere. No, I'm kidding. That's awesome.
I just can't believe there's a winery in Kansas. Sorry,
Actually,
Kansas.
All right, honestly,
It's good
since
too.
Kansas, but yeah, I mean, is it good?
Yep.
It was good.
Let's
It was
not
really
get canceled
good.
by Kansas too. We've got a couple countries we've already
Yeah,
lost.
we've lost a couple countries, one continent, and
states.
2 states.
Yeah.
But we're still going live in a couple of the other continents, and some of the states.
Thank God
still
there's
like
14 continents.
Woo! Thank.
All
Never
right.
change. All right, let's go.
Question C.
Question C in our what is a customer service pet peeve of yours when you're the customer?
When I'm the customer, it's really just it's the follow through, the follow up and the follow through. So if it is something where you're spending some good money, they should be making sure that there's a follow up, especially if it's a service. Now, if it's a product, that might be something different, but I do want, even when I'm buying something from the internet or from Amazon, when they send me feedback or asking me for feedback, like, take your customers' feedback into consideration and change your product, your package, your delivery, whatever it is. But it's the same thing about employee relations. It's like, talk to your customers, ask them what they want, and then make the changes, and then let them know you've made the changes.
Nice. That's a good one. Follow through. I like that one. That's good. All right, last question. Give us a DIY nightmare story.
And this might happen to be with an RV.
And it could be a rolling DIY nightmare
That's
story.
exactly right.
Yeah, that, like I said, in my trip in the summer of 2021, you name it, it happened to me, and I had to fix a lot of things by myself with duct tape on the road in a like Walmart parking lot. And so I the first thing I did is I was backing out of a parking lot that I had no business being in, and I hit a fence, and it took the door off of my storage unit. And so I went and picked it up from the road and threw it in the passenger seat. And then later on, I put it together and duct taping everything together, including, the bumper thing that ripped off. So duct tape does work.
All right, duct tape is your friend. Duct taping your door while going down the highway at 75 miles an hour.
You could use that as the podcast title, and people have to listen all the way to the end to get to it.
To get the duct tape.
Yeah,
I know. Alan's bummed because we just got some feedback on our podcast that people listen about 2/3 of the way through and then drop off. He's like, no.
The good stuff happens.
The good stuff's at the end, because this is the best, baby. I mean, the whole thing is the best. It's the best 45 minutes of these people's lives. Okay, I'm just joking. You better be listening to this sucker on 1.25 or at least 1.5 speed. That's what I do.
That's ridiculous.
It is.
You can't absorb it.
I can't. Not
Well,
quickly enough.
No,
All right. Hey, did you learn something today? Because I did.
I did.
Yep. Did we all learn something today?
I think so.
Yep. We've all learned something today. Wendy lives in Irby. No, that wasn't it. It was actually just there's a couple more things.
Wendy's a badass, so that's what I learned.
Honestly, yeah, man. I'm telling you, great stuff. This was awesome. If you don't learn something today, that's on you because Wendy dropped it. Go check out her website. Go check out her stuff. Listen to her podcast. Hopefully you got something out of this one. We will see you next time because we got to rock and roll, get out of here because I got to go fix some things in my office. Got to go out of here later.
Cheers. Thanks, Wendy.